I want to make sure you guys can see my Christmas tree. I bet I could adjust this just ever so slightly. I don't know how to do that. We're just going to adjust this for just a second. So you can see my Christmas tree. All right. Hi, Fresh Start. I see you in the chat. Hi, Manny. I see you in the chat on the YouTube live. If you're not watching the YouTube live, make sure you move over. All right. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to join. Do a little, you can't even see the muscle, but it's there. I promise. Bet we're all getting stronger doing our push-ups every day. Today, we're talking about forgetting who's in the room and avoiding the success faux pas. Let's just wait. We got some good amount of people here, so this will be good. What you think may change what you do. Thinking is really important. But more importantly, what you do changes what you think. Your actions change your thoughts versus your thoughts changing your actions. Have you ever, a great example of this is somebody that does something that maybe their subconscious says is a bad thing, like lying to somebody. And that in turn changes their subconscious and they justify it. So what you do changes your thoughts. Big brain. That's correct, Manny. Some traumas are fine. I wish people had an appreciation for trauma because we live in a society of weak individuals that will not pay the price tag for resilience and mental toughness. Everybody wants those things, but they're not willing to pay for them. And the way that you pay for them is by having difficult experiences and having a perspective of appreciation for the hard stuff. And I, unfortunately, also felt self-pity and victimized myself until I was like 18, 19 years old. And I went through the hardest time of my life. And it took a lot for me to, a lot of like self-pity and crying every single day for years because of my situation to determine that life actually was beautiful because I had gone through that. It meant that things were more meaningful. And it meant that the good stuff was better because of it. I was talking about a verse of the Bible this morning with some of my friends. And it's Ecclesiastes 7:3. And this, like, right, regardless of whether or not you like the Bible, I think there's a lot of appreciation you can have for this because it's a really deep concept. And it is, sorrow is better than laughter. For by sadness of face, the heart is made glad. Like, that is just so deep. Like, that's like the deepest thing you can like say. Sorrow is better than laughter. For by sadness of face, the heart is made glad. So it's the good or the bad stuff that makes the stuff good. And to a point, like, you don't want trauma that's going to emotionally affect you forever. Like, you want stuff you can heal from. And when I've talked to my family about instilling trauma on children to build mental toughness, like, they look at me sideways thinking like, oh, I wouldn't want my children to experience hard stuff. But I think it's more important to teach your children to be not be happy, but rather, and not be successful. While those things are important, those aren't the most important. The most important is to be kind. And typically parents fall into one of those three categories. And you could determine what type of parent somebody is based off of which priority they think is the most important. Is it most important for their child to be successful, to be happy, or to be kind? And I think that the final one is the most important. So to the point that they let other people's trauma emotionally affect them. So people are afraid of trauma and they let other people's trauma emotionally affect them. And this is one of the saddest things that's happening these days, because trauma is fine, but also, like, you cannot let other people's trauma emotionally affect you. most people make mistakes and learn from them. So many entrepreneurs walk into a room and just start talking, not even realizing that they could learn something from somebody wiser than them. So many people talk, and it basically makes them avoid listening, because you can't listen when you're talking. So you're either teaching or you're learning. You only have like the two things. You're absorbing, or you are like serving, like you're doing one or the other. You're like giving information out, or you're taking information in. It's hard to do both at once, and you're never going to be able to do one or the other 100%, and you're never going to be able to do both 100% at once. So that's important. But yeah, when it comes to trauma, like, you really have to make sure that you don't let other people's trauma emotionally affect you. One of the saddest things, in my opinion, is when people, and this is like pretty much the biggest problem I see with self-pity, and it is letting your ancestors' trauma affect you. Like, it's okay to learn from history, but being significantly affected emotionally by things that did not impact you directly, it only puts you in a bad situation. You cannot exist in that emotional defeat, emotionally traumatic, like sitting in a place where you are burdened and you are injured emotionally for very long. You have to move past it. And unfortunately, every single person's ancestors on the planet have done great evil. Every single person on the planet. My friend joked that the Swedish haven't, but but pretty much everybody. So unless you're 100% Swedish, maybe you can argue that your ancestors didn't do great evil, but everybody's basically have, and I'm sure that theirs have as well. So you cannot let that emotionally affect you, because there's been incredible evil done to every people group and by every people group. So most people make mistakes and learn from them. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people talk before listening. They don't read the room. If you don't know who the smartest person in the room is, it's not you, because you won't know if you're the smartest person in the room. And I guess the big thing I'm saying is don't do all of the talking. And don't do all of the talking with the 33% above you. If you walk into a room and you have to talk about a certain topic, don't do all of it. Make sure that if you're in a room, we talk about the law of 33%. This is building off of a previous concept that we talked about in the past. The law of 33% states that you should spend a third of your time, 33%, with people that you are being mentored by, people that you are hoping to be in their shoes at 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And age is not really the thing. It's all about their success level in a specific field. They're not all around going to be perfect people, but one field, they've achieved what you want to achieve in that one field. So don't look at every aspect of their life. But that's the top 33%. And then 33% should be with peers, people at your same level. And then 33% of your time should be with people you're mentoring towards success. And it's great because you're both giving back and it increases your self-esteem. So there's reasons to have all three. And you don't want to do all of the talking with the 33% above you, because that will stifle your learning. You're not going to learn if you're doing all the talking. You can start talking when you're with the 33% below you and do most of the talking. Of course, you can still learn something from those people. Abraham Lincoln said that I learn something from everybody I meet. Just most of the time, it's what not to be and what not to do. When you're with the 33% at your level, meaning your peers, it should be like you're passing a ball back and forth. It should be an exchange, go back and forth. You like playing catch, basically. It is insane when you meet somebody and you say, hey, you know and say a lot of stuff I don't. People like don't say that enough. When you meet somebody and you say, hey, you know and say a lot of things I don't. You think about things differently than I don't, or than I do. You just have a different perspective, and I've never thought of things this way. Let me take you to dinner. You should be taking these people to dinner. When you meet somebody that thinks a little differently than you, absolutely get them on the phone, take them out to coffee, spend time with them, absorb like everything they have to say like a sponge. Be a sponge. I remember when I first started in the financial industry, every single person I worked with, even the client associates, knew way more than I knew because they had been there for decades. And my mentor at the time, Michael Carter, he had been in the industry for like 40 years. He would not retire. He was like almost 70 years old. He just would not retire. And he wanted to be doing it for the rest of his life because it was so fundamental to him. But, and prior to that, he was a U.S. Marine. He knew so much. And he told me, just, Emily, spend time with me, sit in my meetings with me, follow me around as well as the other people here, but especially me because I'm in the top 1%, and just be a sponge. Absorb everything. And it was well worth my time because I knew that he was 33% above me. And when mentors see something in somebody that is valuable, they see a lot of potential, they're going to give their time to those people. If they don't see potential in you, you're not going to find a mentor. You're only going to find a mentor if you are worth being mentored. If you're worth being taught. The acquisition of knowledge is easy, but the application is tough. And they have to know that you're going to apply things. It's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. We talked about book smarts versus street smarts this morning. You can learn street smarts from book smarts. Right? There isn't a huge disconnect. Like those two things are intertwined. But street smarts are way more valuable. So the application is the important thing. So let the people that are the 33% above you do the talking. Allow for it. Ask questions. Don't ask so many questions to where you're ignoring them, but ask questions. And don't be the man with the hammer. The man with the hammer syndrome, this is the hammer error, basically says when all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Our minds are belief-generating machines. If you believe that the best strategy is always a hammer, you will be very inefficient at getting the good life because every single strategy is a hammer because every single problem is a nail. You have to be more strategic. Learn some strategy. I play strategy games on my computer. I help my friends with their problems, solving things that aren't really in my realm of expertise, because strategy is so important. And look to people that have strategy other than yours. Have what we call a board of directors. So have an accountant, have a health-related mentor, like have what I call a board of directors. You can have a mentor in each area of the good life. You can have a spiritual mentor, somebody that really knows whatever you're trying to achieve spiritually very well and has done it. Somebody that is relational, that maybe has been married for 50 years, that knows how well-working relationships work. Don't talk to your friend, your best friend who's been dating around for a decade and hasn't settled down with somebody. Don't get your relationship advice from that person, but rather have a board of directors of experts. Do you like that, Bearded Issues? Gain the ability to gain mentors. Most young people have a poor image of what the top 33% look like. What do mentors look like? What do the top 1% of the world look like, or of the United States look like? What does wealth look like? It's not usually your parents. I found this out very quickly. When you're in the financial industry and you're working with, let's say I'm giving investment advice to somebody, and I'm working with somebody in their 20s or 30s. The most successful person they know, if they're kind of middle class, it's really sad, but more often than not, the best person that they're close to that is successful is like their parents. That's like their only example of success. I ask, who do you know that's really doing things correctly? And the best answer they have is their parents. Like, they don't often have a very successful friend or few friends, or maybe they just have a hard time getting to those people. So gain the ability to have mentors, have the attitude of maybe he knows something that I don't know. Yeah. And I had to figure that out the hard way, because I would be like trying to network with more successful people through the people I already knew, right? I was like, I know these people and they're, fine. They're middle class, they're growing, they're on the rise, but I need people that have already achieved it. So who do you know that has already achieved it? Who do you know that's really successful in their career, has great relationship, has some kids? And the best person that they could give as an example would be their parents. And I'm like, well, that's not the best example. Your parents are only slightly better than you. I need people that are exponentially better than you, the top 1% of America. And it wasn't very often that they were those people. All right, so this was a really fun conversation. I have a few questions. The first one is, what is an example of a time there was people you should have been listening to, but you didn't? I love teachers as mentors, like literal teachers. If you're in college, build relationships with your professors. Ask them out to coffee or lunch and hear their life story. You can learn a lot from it. I know I'm currently muted. I'm on the YouTube live stream if you'll move over there. Then my second question is, what is a time you were in a room where you let people speak that were unqualified? That's almost as bad. Not listening to somebody is horrible if they have something important to say. But also listening to garbage, listening to idiots, taking their advice is almost as bad. I mean, it could be worse and dependent on the situation, but it's almost as bad. And a lot of people listen to their idiot friends. Their friends will give them their financial advice that are barely even living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, their friends will be giving relationship advice, and their friends are just sleeping around and have yet to find a girl that isn't crazy. Instead, listen to your parents if they're still together, or your grandparents, or somebody else's grandparents. Who knows? My final question is, how can you get yourself around people that deserve your respect? This one's really important. How can you reach out to the right people and do some research? If anybody wants to get my take on how to properly network and build out a circle of influence of people that are worthy of your respect, you guys can message me on Instagram. I have my Instagram listed on my account, so you guys can message me on Instagram. And I will absolutely share what I call the circle of influence tactic and a couple other different really great networking skills. I'd say one of the keys to networking, I'll just leave you guys with this, is generosity. Generosity without keeping score will give you people that respect you. So if you do that to the right people, you give very genuine compliments. People love to have their ego stroked and be patted on the back. And then generosity without keeping score with the right people. That's when you have a bigger network. That's just one of my tips. If you guys are not currently watching my YouTube live stream. That's where I'm doing my educational series right now, and we're almost over. So for future, try to spend 33% of your time with mentors, because that's the hardest thing. I'd say that's probably the thing that you guys need to work on the most. Luckily, you have me. And I'm not saying that I'm the 33% above for everybody, but you do listen to me. And of course, I'm spending maybe my 33% with peers, or maybe with people that I'm mentoring in this situation. But I do have other mentors. So think about how much are you spending with each type of person. So if you like this topic, and you want to tune in again, make sure you have your notifications turned on. If you haven't subscribed, do that. Feel free to comment any topics that you'd like for me to cover in the future, because I have some great ones coming up, and I always like to hear what people are struggling with. And I'm doing a ton of research on these topics. This isn't stuff that I'm just taking from one source. This is 50 sources and the best minds that have ever existed that have had genuine conversations about this stuff. So that's why I'm trying to give the best stuff I can. But I will talk to you guys on Monday. We'll be doing the next topic, which is the self-fulfilling delusion. We're going to talk a little bit about pride on Monday. I'm excited about that one. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Cheers. I'll see y'all later.